are live. Okay, good morning, everyone. Just a bit of recap on what we talked about last week regarding our stateful and stateless widgets. Our stateless widget does not allow us to update our user interface based on based on the new values for our variables. So let's go over here to go to our stateless widget screen. Over here we have my name is Slim Shady. Now if I am to stateless, okay. Now over here you can see here I declared words to be my name is Slim Shady and I also put in the words here. Now this button here says increase count. So once I hit it, it modifies the value to my name is Mike. So once I hit it over here, you can see, let me enter my debug console. You can see that the value changes to name is Mike, but over here it does not change. So stateless widget only uses the value that was declared at the beginning point. So even if you change the value of your variables, it will not reflect on your user interface. That's for a stateless widget. Now let's move over to a stateful widget over here. Now we can see we declared our counter value to be 0. And over here we are incrementing our counter by 1 each time we press our elevated button. So let's hit it over here. You can see current value is 1 over here. Let me clear my console. Increase. You can see current value is 2 and you can see that the UI updates. Now note something very carefully. You remember when we talked about classes and how classes, based on OOP principles, how classes inherit properties from another class. You can see over here, this is our class here, and it extends stateful widget class, which allows it to have a property called setState. SetState is what is in charge of telling the Flutter SDK that this UI needs to be rebuilt. Now, if I'm to remove setState over here, setState is a function. If I'm to remove it over here and I hit increase count, even though it shows 3 here, it's not increasing. That's because we have not told our Flutter framework that you need to redraw this our widget. That is why. Now, once I put in my set state again, remember, once I do this, hot reload will make it reload, and you see it. Now, once I hit increase, 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 you can see it increases because this set state tells the Flutter framework to redraw the widget. Now, how do we know that a widget is being redrawn again and again and again? I did not mention this in the first class. Now, over here, what you can see here now is a function that returns a widget, Abi. Now, if we are to put a log in here, let's say log. I just want to show you that this thing actually calls this function again. Basically, this set state, once you call it, it calls your build function. And that is what enables you to redraw this UI again and again. So let's say I am building. Now once I hit increase count, you'll see here I am building. What this tells you is that it has called this function again that enables it to redraw this whole screen. And the reason why I am telling you this is that in some
Hello.
Mike,
Boss, share your recording back because my network is bad. I'm not seeing like what you're doing.
okay,
Like your
yeah,
picture is not
I am
use my
recording. Don't
network.
worry, I'm recording. It's going to my
Okay.
YouTube stream. Baki, you raised your hand previously. Baki.
Yes, sir. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Let's continue. Please give me a moment. Uh, um, okay, sorry about that. As I was saying, this set state here calls this build function in order to redraw the widget to see this update thing so that I can get the latest version over here. Is that clear? Baki, Michael.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm following up.
Okay, okay. Now let's go over to popular widgets that we have. And the reason why I wanted to even tell you the reason why I showed you how this thing works is that in some cases when you're building your widget tree and you notice that you call some certain functions and you notice that it is redrawing what is not supposed to redraw. Logging this actually enables you to tell what is happening. And okay, this thing happened one time when I was building the Vigoplace application. When you're watching a video and you now decide to bring up a comment, at that particular point, once you hit the button to bring out your comments widget, that's bottom sheet now for your comments, it restarts the video. I was trying to wonder why bringing out comment was restarting video. Then after several hours of debugging, then I noticed that when a user clicks on that button to bring up the comment, the widget that is coming up rebuilds the whole of my widget tree. So when it rebuilds it, the video restarts from the beginning again. So in order for me to solve that problem, I had to remove my video player from that stateful widget and put it in a stateless widget. So no matter how another widget is rebuilding, it's not going to affect that video. That's just one of the use cases. I used it in debugging something else. But don't worry, it's just something that you need to know. You need to know at this particular point. You may not use it, but there will come a time when that knowledge will be valuable to you. Yeah. And of course, we also talked about material, our material team over here, material app with our team that enables us to change colors globally. Yeah, you'll need to refer to the last class for you to get the full picture of that because I can't go back to it again. Go to another screen. You can see over here that this screen here is red and this top here is a shade of pink. But when you come over to this other screen, it's yellow, and this other one too is yellow. We actually did something along that line here. We showed how you can change it from one to another. Okay, so now let's move on to today's class. So today's class is all about talking about the popular widgets that you will be encountering every single time in your Flutter building process. Number one is your container. Your container is a very important widget because you can basically use your container for virtually everything. Not really everything, Sha. For most things, you can use your container. You deal with your column a lot, your row a lot, your expanded widget, your sized box, your text, and some other popular ones like that. But these are the major ones. Now, let's start with let me create a new file called popular widgets.dat. Okay, let's start with, let's make this a stateful widget. Let's call it popular widgets. And of course, we need to import our material for all those other ones. And scaffold, add a scaffold, But I explained what our scaffold does now. Abi, um, Mike, you are here. Shebi,
Yes, yes. Sorry, I was muted.
okay. Now let me create a button that will take us to that point in time. Popular. I think I am. Okay. No issues about that. Thinking about introducing Git to the program, but let's go. Okay, over here, hit in here, and we are in here in our popular widgets section. Now let's go with the first one, a column. Let me create a function here. Now this is where you guys will see the benefits of modular code. Remember when we were talking about functions and variables, where I said you can create a function and call that function somewhere else. Now, this will enable you to see the beauty of it. Now, let's say column widget over here, it returns. You guys already know the meaning of this one now. I have used it a couple of times. Shorthand for this. I have shown you guys, Abi.
Me, I'm not me. Let me not lie to you. I see things after you've written them. I'm not seeing what you're doing right now.
Oh, basically I
My
did.
network is really bad.
It's really bad. Okay, I did equal to and greater than sign to form like an arrow. So this basically is a shorthand form of. Let me create another row.
Okay, okay. Okay.
These two things, they are the same. This over here, this equal to and greater than sign is basically this closing opening bracket and this return. This basically says this returns column. So instead of writing this whole thing, you can just do it in shorthand form. And most of the time, okay, now let me give you difference in use cases for these two right here. Now, this other one, you should use this one if you want to do any additional computation here. While this one, if there's no additional computation, you can use this other one because this one does not leave room for you to do any other thing here. So yeah, let's go with our column widget. Now, what our column widget does is that it arranges our widget from top to bottom. Basically, it arranges it in a vertical sense. Now, let's change this our background color to, let's say, colors.white over here. Now we have our children, and let's give it our text that goes, hello, I am a good boy. And let's give it column widget. Okay, now you can see it over here, it's a bit above. Let's add up bar to push it down a bit. Okay, now you can see where it is here. Hello, I am a good boy. It's starting from the top, going down. Now let's do the same thing for our row widget and let's see what we'll get. Hello, I am a good boy row. Let's make this column. Okay, at this particular point, you won't really see the difference. So let me add another widget to it. Text in my column era. Now let's add this over here in my row era. Now let's switch to column. Now you can see the column over here This one went first, and this one came underneath it.
Okay. Hello?
You guys are saying, Abi?
Yes, yeah, I just saw it now.
Okay,
Yes.
Baki, are you saying it?
Yes. But are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Mike.
Okay.
Okay, now if I switch to my row widget, you can see that it moves along the horizontal axis. Meanwhile, our column moves on the vertical axis. It's very important for you to take that into consideration. Now we will move to some of the properties of our column and row widgets. Now, once you hover on top of here, you will see a key. You see your main alignment, main size, cross alignment, text direction, all these options here. The two major ones that you'll be making use of will be your cross axis alignment, let's say start, and your main axis alignment, let's say center. You can see how these properties adjust the position of your widgets over here, Abi.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you what this cross axis alignment does. What it does is basically tries to position the widget within the column in this axis over here, over the horizontal axis. You're seeing my mouse cursor, Abi? For a column, your cross axis is your horizontal alignment. Meanwhile, your main axis is your vertical alignment. Now, if I'm to put this now, you see I put my main axis to be centered. That's why you're seeing it here, centered. Now, if I'm to put my cross axis, which is from left to right, main axis is top to bottom. Let me put it over here, center. You can see it moved this guy over here to the center. Now, let's see why. This thing can be a bit annoying, but let's give it an expanded widget to see. Yeah, of course, you're going to throw up an error for me. Let's give you another expanded. Okay, no, let's leave it. Let's add another widget because sometimes it tends to not work if you have only text widgets. Yeah, you can see that now, Abi. Baki, Mike, are you guys following?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just see it.
Okay. Sometimes this particular column widget, sometimes the head they shake. You'll notice that even though I specified it to be at the center, it was not at the center until I added another widget. Now, if I should remove this container here, it's taking me back to this point here. It's not taking out everything to the center. But if I just add container here, it's taking me to the center, which was specified here. Now, my main axis alignment will bring it down to this middle over here. So you can see with these two properties, I have set the position of my widget to be at the center of my screen. There's one thing that you should note. Your column widget works with the space that is available to it. I'm going to explain what that means shortly. Let's move back to our row widget. Now, since our row widget moves from left to right, let me add a space here so that we can see the difference. This space here. Since it moves from left to right, our cross axis will be running along top to bottom. Meanwhile, our main axis will be running from left to right. Now, if I put this at the center, you can see this guy now has moved to the center over here. That's because it's a row. Now, this thing took me a while to figure out when I was learning Flutter, because most people will not even tell you. They will just tell you what a row is, what a column is, and they move on with their lives. Now, remember, for your row widget, its main axis is left to right. So your main axis here, whichever property you put here will be affected on the left to right, on this space here, on your horizontal space. Meanwhile, your cross for your row will be top to bottom. Meanwhile, your column uses the inverse, in which its main axis runs from top to bottom, while its cross axis moves from left to right. Please, questions?
I understand. So I don't have question.
Baki,
But except you just explain it one more time.
no, I can't explain it one more time. That explanation is long. What did you hear so far? What do you need clarification on?
That's cross axis alignment dot center. He said for column widget, cross axis alignment dot center. We'll position the widget at the center. But for the main axis alignment dot center, I don't understand that one.
Let me bring up pins. Okay. Okay, yeah, okay. This should do it. This is what I am saying. You have your you have your column, Abi. For your column,
Yes.
the main axis for your column runs from top to bottom. You're going in a straight line, it's vertical. Meanwhile, your cross axis for your column is left to right, like this. So whichever change you make on your main axis, it's going to affect this straight line over here. That is why when I put center for my column, let me go for my column widget. That's when I put center here. You can see that it is running down here. And this is the midpoint of my main axis. So that's why it is here. If I put this to the start, it's going to take it to the top, because this is my main here. This axis running down here now. This is my main axis. So I've said, okay, go to the start of my main axis. That's why it is up here. But if I now say, oh, my cross axis, which is here, the horizontal, I said center. But if I say start, it comes to this point here, because that's the start of my cross axis.
Okay, I understand now.
The same way, if I go for end of my cross axis, it takes me to this end here. If I should do end for my main, it takes me to here now, because this is the end of my main axis. You can see how these properties here are moving these widgets up and down the screen. Baki, are you following?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm following. I have understand now.
Okay. Meanwhile, for your row, remember your row moves in the direction of left to right. So for your row, your main axis is left to right. Meanwhile, your cross axis is top to bottom. Okay. Now, I was explaining something earlier about your column only moving in the space available to read. Now let's see how this works. Let me create a column over here. Or no, let me create a container. No, let me leave it as a column. Now let me create a container. Let's give our container color red. Let's give it a height of, let's say, 200 pixels, and let's give it a width of, let's say, 150 pixels. Okay, now you can see my container over here, Abi. Now
Yes.
let's give this our container a child. Let's put something inside our container, child of our column widget. Now you can see that our, let's make this thing a bit longer, a bit wider rather. Now you can see that this our column widget is within this box here. Remember, initially it was down here when we gave it
Yes.
these properties. But since it is already inside this container here, your column will only, the properties of your column will only work within the confines of the widget that it is in. Now, if I come here and do start, it's only moving within this box here. It is not going anywhere. It is not going anywhere. It is only moving within this space here. Basically, your column widget and your row widget, they can only move within the space that is available to them by their parent widget. In this situation, the container is the parent widget of this column. So this column can only move within the space that this parent widget has. If I should increase here to be, let's say 600, and I put here to be end, you can see now it has come down here because the parent has that space to move up and down. Are we following?
Yes.
Mbaki, what of you?
Yes, sir. I'm following.
Okay. Remember when we started this thing, I told you that container is one of the most powerful and one of the most popular widgets in Flutter. I'm going to show you why that is. Let me remove our child here. Now, with our container, we can do a bunch of things. Container is just basically a framework where you can carve things in. For example, it's just like a potter that has clay. Whatever he wants the clay to be, that's what that clay will be, and that's what a container does. Now, over here, we can see a simple container here that has a color red, has height 600, has width 250. Abi? Now, if we hover
Yes.
on top of here, we can see a bunch of other properties. We have our alignment, padding, decoration, this one, that one. The main magic happens within decoration. Now, let's see how it goes. Let me remove our color and let's declare decoration over here. Now, this decoration takes in a property of decoration. Now, this is one thing that you will have to learn in Flutter, which is because you see the property here to be decoration, that doesn't mean you just go and pass decoration over here. It will not work. It will not work. What this actually takes in is a box decoration. But this box decoration returns. This thing is funny. If you hover over here, you can see that it takes in a property of decoration, Abi. When you
Yes.
come here and hover over box decoration returns box decoration property, but not a decoration property. Sometimes all these types of things, you just need to know it by heart. By heart. Because sometimes it just doesn't make any sense, and there's no way for you to try to explain it to people. So let's come over here. Now, inside our box decoration, you will notice one thing. Our box decoration has a color property here. But initially, we also have a color property over here. Now, when you're dealing with a container, there's one very important thing that you should know. Our box, once you declare a decoration takes over all other properties that you want to put in here except your height and width. So basically, if you are to declare, let's say colors dot red here, and you now come and declare colors dot green here, it's going to throw up an error. You'll see it very soon. You're saying, Abi, decoration equals null, cannot provide both a color and a decoration. Yeah, when I was learning further, this thing really gave me problems. So you can only declare color in one section. If you've declared a decoration here, you cannot come and declare color here. If not, it will throw up error. And let's move over here and hit this. Now you can see we've changed here to green. You can also change here to blue, whatever color that we want. Now, by default, you will notice something that our container is in the shape of a four-sided figure. Abi?
Yes.
Now, we have our property over here called shape. Now, this shape here takes in, let's hover over it. It takes in box shape. Abi? Now,
Yes.
look at what I was explaining earlier. Now, if I type in box shape here, you will see box shape, circle, box shape, rectangle. Rectangle is default. Now, if I hit circle, you see that now our container has turned into a circle. It's
So,
no longer-
boss, now, does it mean that the container's height and width now does not matter?
It matters, oh, it still matters. Let me remove it. It disappears. In order for your container to be visible, it needs to have a height and a width. If
Okay.
there's an if there, oh, if there is no child widget. Okay, see now. There's no child widget over here. Now let's add a child of column over here. Now you can see, let me remove this one to be, let me change it back to a rectangle. Now you can suddenly see that even though we did not declare height and width, just by adding a child widget, we can now see that our container now has a height and a width. Now if I should remove my child widget, you're not seeing that container again. Now until I now put in height and width, you can now see it. Now there's one thing that you should keep at the back of your mind. Anytime you explicitly declare the height and the width of a widget that has height and width property, if you should add a child inside there, that child will always be within that width and that height. If for some reason the size of that child is greater than the height over here, it is going to tell you an overflow error. But if you do not declare a height or a width, the size of the child will automatically be pushing this your container. It will be making it bigger and bigger. Let me explain this further. Now, if I'm to add another set of widgets over here, let me double this one. You can see that the height of my container has increased,
Yes.
even though I did not specify the height here. Now, look what happens when I specify the height. Let's give this one 100. You can see it over here, Abi. Okay, in fact, let me make it 70. You can see this error over here, Abi. Bottom
Yes.
overflowed by 10 pixels. That's because I have explicitly declared that my container must be this height. But now, the child of my container is taking up more than this height. That is why it is showing up here. But now, if I should remove this my height now, the child automatically this container rather automatically adjusts to the size of this column of its child widget.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some cases where you need to explicitly declare that your container is supposed to be this height. Because of course, there are several designs where you have to do that, and there are some cases where you don't have to that. Whatever the size of your child, let your container automatically adjust to it.
Okay.
Okay, now let's take it a step further. There is also a very important widget for space management in Flutter called our single scroll view. Yeah, please give
Single.
single scroll view. I'm coming. Just give me a moment.
I can't hear. Mom is calling you. Your mom is calling you.
Okay, I'm back. Now let's take the use case of single scroll view. Now let's double this one again. You can see now that the child is overflowing more than the height of the container. Abi?
Yes.
Now, the Flutter development team had a good idea that, okay, what if now I have declared my container to be this height, but the content of the child widget is more than the height? What are we going to do? That is where our single scroll view widget comes in. Now, what this widget does is that it gives other widgets the ability to be scrollable. Now, let's make look at the single child scroll view. Now, you can see suddenly it has adjusted inside, and now I can scroll.
Oh.
This is what enables scrolling. Now you can see that we have declared our height to be 70, and even though our child widget takes up more than 70 space, this single scroll view allows you to put everything inside so the user can scroll.
Okay.
Please be taking notes of these widgets, so they are very important because you'll be using them a lot. Now, this our single scroll view widget. Let's take a look at the properties. It has a bunch of properties, but we are not going to get into all of them. Now, you can see vertical, scroll direction, vertical. What this tells you is that, okay, axis to be vertical, and we already know our vertical to run from top to bottom. That is when you apply this scroll view to a widget, the default direction that will take you scrolling is top to bottom. Now let's move over to our row widget over here. Remember, our row widget moves from left to right, so this vertical space is not really its concern. Now let's add more content over here. There's our main. Let's make it to start. Let it start at the beginning. Then let's see my comma. I missed another comma here. Okay, so should be good now. Now notice that this guy now overflows to the right. Meanwhile, our column was overflowing to the bottom.
Okay.
This was what I was explaining now. That row widget moves from left
From
to
left
right.
to right.
Meanwhile, our column moves from top to bottom.
Top to bottom.
Now we are going to apply the same thing that we applied over here. We are going to use our single scroll view widget. Now, see, I've applied it, but this error still remains. Now, I'm going to change the axis scroll direction. That's a property. Axis dot horizontal. Because our row moves in a horizontal manner, not a vertical manner. Now you can see I can scroll here. That error is no longer there. Do you guys need a moment to digest everything?
So, basically,
Baki, any question? Baki, yo. Baki, can you hear me? Seems Baki is not available. Mike, can you hear me?
yes, I can.
It was my network that went bad. I have been speaking.
Oh, okay. Any question from you or Mike? Any question?
No, sir.
No, what did you mean last for that raw widget that was showing overflow? But you wrap it with single child.
It's something that's gone off again.
Yeah, he's not in the call again. Network is bad.
Okay. Okay. Oh, he's back again.
He's bad.
Baki, if you're speaking, you're muted.
Okay, sir, it was my network that is misbehaving.
Okay.
I said that it was showing something overflow just now. You wrap it with single child scroll view bar
Yeah.
to avoid it. Okay, thank you.
Then I applied the scroll direction. Remember, the default of this scroll view is to move in a vertical manner. If you apply it to a row, you need to tell it that the scroll direction is horizontal. Look at for single child scroll. I did not need to say that because look at this property here. By default is already vertical.
What's going on in somebody's on my top?
You want to what?
Somebody's on my top.
Okay. I think scroll scroll bar. Color. Thumb visibility. Let's just wait for Mike to come.
I'm back.
Okay. Let me just play around with some bunch of things. What do you take in scroll controller? Instance of my scroll controller. Slap use scroll controller. Okay. Um, where is this thing? Um, just give me some moments. I'm trying out. I'm trying out something. Sha. Uh, let me find the color. Thickness. Mm, oh, it's not visible. Why is it now? Find out why that thing is not visible. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Now, there's one thing that you should be careful about when using this single scroll view. And a single scroll view only works when there is a specific height or width that it can work with. Okay, now let me try to explain further. When you apply a single scroll view to any widget, it gives it infinite space for you to add more widgets because it is scrolling. Now, like this, we can keep scrolling and as you add more content, you'll be scrolling more and more. Abi, it is infinite.
Mm.
Shebi. Now, there are some widgets that you cannot apply within this scroll view widget because those widgets require your parent tree to have a specific height. One of them is your single scroll view. Okay, let's see what happens if I add another single scroll view inside my column. Remember, let me switch to column widgets. Now I have my column widget over here. I am scrolling a bit. Now let me
Mm.
slap in another single scroll view. It's not even displaying itself. Let me put in a child. Let me put another child column widget. You can see here error here, Stack Overflow. It's not going to
Okay.
allow. So in other words, you can't put a single scroll view inside a widget that has infinite space. Now, let me create another widget within it. Let me create a container of height. Let's say 100. Let's give the color of colors.red. Okay, yeah, yeah. You just cannot put two single scroll view. You can't put another single scroll view inside. Now let's go for another widget that will not allow you to declare it inside a widget that gives it infinite space property. Let's enter here to make sure something is good. Okay, let's increase this one to 150. Okay, we can scroll. Let's put in more items here. Ordinarily, I'm supposed to just use a generator. Um, let me just leave it. Let me just leave it like this. Okay. Now, remember, I talked about a particular widget, our expanded widgets. Now, let's look at our expanded widgets over here. Now, what our expanded widget does is that it takes up all the available space within the parent widget. Now, let me put
Oh,
a container inside here and let's give it color. Which color should we give it?
give it, give it red. Red.
Okay, red here. Now, I now put my expanded widget here. You can see what happened, Abby.
Okay.
Remember, expanded, we did not declare height or anything, no. But it will just take up all the available space. If I'm to remove this other widget here, it will cover everywhere.
Okay.
This expanded widget here is a very greedy widget. It will take any space that you give it. It will cover everywhere. But now, the thing with our expanded widget is that wherever you are putting your expanded widget, there needs to be a constraint of height or width. Remember, our single scroll view widget gives us infinite height and infinite width so that users can scroll, Abi.
Yes.
Our expanded widget takes up all available space. Now, if you're to put in something that takes in all available space within a widget that gives you infinite space, what do you think will happen?
That means what do you call it? If this one gives us infinite space and this one takes up the available space, that means the expanded widget will continue like expanding,
It will
expanding
continue,
because the
yes,
space.
expanding, expanding, and it will never stop expanding. Now, watch what happens when I add single scroll view here. Bang bang, error. You can see over here. Let me clear this. So when I hit, and I will show you a trick that I have learned in Flutter. Now, once I hit continue, you will see this bunch of things over here. You
Yes.
would have to read them. Reading is very important in this place. You can see now the error here is render flex. Children have non-zero flex, but incoming height constraints are unbounded. They like to speak big English.
The oh God of it,
Big English. What this simply means is that your parent widget does not have a specific height, and your child widget is taking in all the space that it can find. So basically,
Okay.
since you have not declared your parent widget to have a specific height, this widget over here is just taking in space, and it will never end. Now, it says when a column is in a parent that does not provide a finite height constraint, for example, if it is in a vertical scrollable, see you are saying vertical
Uh,
scrollable, we are in the vertical scrollable, it will try to shrink wrap its children along its big English. Basically, do not put a widget that takes all the available space inside a widget that creates unlimited space.
available.
Yes, that is basically what all this grammar is telling you. Now, if I move over to continue here, once you see this error here has size error here, it is telling you that something is taking up space within a widget that is giving in infinite space. Once you see this has hide something here, most likely that's what is happening. So if I keep on doing like this, like this, like this, these things will keep coming up and coming up and coming up and coming up until you finally go away. Now I'll have to remove this guy here. Now, if now I'm to give it this guy a container and declare the height to let's say 200, you see it takes in that 200, the whole of that 200.
Okay.
That is what
Okay.
expanded widget does. it takes in the available space. There is another widget that is like expanded widgets. They are both similar, and it's called your flex. Flexible, yeah, flexible. Now let me put my flexible here. You can see that your flexible does exactly what your expanded does.
Yes.
Oh shit, taking light.
So there is no major difference between the both.
Nope, not at all. Now let's read what flexible says. Create a widget that controls how a child, bracket row or widgets, controls how a child of a row, column, or whatever flexes. Now we come to expanded. Create a widget that expands a child of a row, blah blah, so that the child fills the available space along the flex's main axis. Grammar, grammar, grammar. In the nitty gritty of things, there really is no difference. Now let's look at some of the properties in here. Fit to be loose. Now let's change our fit here to be tight, and let's see what happens. It's the same thing, nothing changes. Now let's hit this refresh again. Okay, I can see that an error is coming up. Now let's see what this error is saying. Incorrect use of parent widget. Yeah. Also, this incorrect use of parent widget, when it happens in debug mode, you will still see the widget, but in production, you will see a gray screen there, which can be annoying to debug. That's one other thing that you should take into consideration. And okay, yeah, I need to show you guys a very important property. All this while, we've been talking about how the expanded widget takes in all the available space. Abi?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what happens if you now have two expanded widgets? Now, let's take our expanded widget here. Let's create a column. I have one expanded. Let's call this our green. Now let's do another one. Let's get it to be, let's say, black. Okay. Now you can see that since it's on our column, since we've declared it to be column, you see that it's up, down, Abi.
Yes.
And what you can notice is that it splits it equally.
That's
Yeah. Both of them, nobody they agree for anybody. You don't take up your space. Me say, if I don't take up my space, we don't jump for middle. Nobody they agree for anybody. Now, in this place now, you as a developer now, if you now want one expanded to take in more space than the other, you can now add flex property. You can now give the flex property of 2. Now, this flex property is a ratio. Basically, 2 to ratio 1. The default for an expanded is flex 1. So you can see here 2 ratio 1, which means this guy is twice as big as this other guy. Now, if I should add another expanded widget over here, let's call this one orange. You can see that this guy is twice as big as this and this.
But now, boss, no vex, the container, the parent container that's taking the 3 expanded is height 200. You see that the height now not increase, or it will still remain at 200, and they will be sharing, the expanded now will be sharing it themselves.
Yeah, they will be sharing that 200. They will not exceed this 200. We've already declared
Okay.
that our container is maximum.
It's
Once you
200.
is maximum of 200. So whatever all these guys are doing, they will stay within that 200.
Okay.
Now, if I'm to change this flex here now to be 3, you can see now it has increased. So
Yeah.
basically, all these numbers here is a form of ratio. 3, 3:1:2.
1
Yeah, yeah. And also this same thing applies to row too.
Okay.
The other one was for column, and this one is for row.
This one is for row.
Yeah, so you can see left to right, this. Now let's do our Nigerian flag.
Right. Green. And the ratio is now will be the same now.
Yeah, all the ratio will be the same. This is a Nigerian flag. Now, you've just noticed that we have used our container and bunch of other widgets to create a flag here.
Yes.
This is how designs happen. Basically, how you can convert designs into the mobile version is how well you understand these widgets, how they work.
Okay.
Now, since I have my flex here now, let's say I want to do Ghanaian flag. Let's look for Ghanaian flag.
Green house star now at the middle.
It has star in the middle. Now, from this Ghana flag, you can see that everything is moving on the column axis, top to
Yes.
bottom. Now, let's go for column. You can see we've got our
Suppose
column.
wait, one question.
Uh-huh.
You can put a column inside a column.
Yeah, you can put a column inside the column. It's nested. It can be
So
nested.
that first column now is like you are dictating for the whole page. Then this column now you
Yes.
are for the
Yes,
listing.
this one is for the whole page. Somebody is following, which is good. This is for the whole page. This column here is only within this container here. That was why our first class, when we were talking about this thing, I told you that it follows a hierarchy. All these guys here are under this column, and this column is under this container, and this container is under this column, and this column is under this scaffold, and the scaffold is under our popular widget, and our popular widget is under this guy here, under this our home page, and our home page is under our material app.
Okay. Yes, understand.
Okay, now let's quickly do the Ghanaian flag because yeah, it's almost 1:30 and 12:30 rather. So we have red, yellow, and green, Abi. Now we have red, yellow, and green. Okay, now we have this our container here, Abi. Now let's add a child to it. Let's add an icon. Let's see if they have icon. Okay, I have not talked about this one here. Okay, so Flutter comes with what's this thing, inbuilt icons, and this is how you can access it. We'll get to that in another class. Now, I want you to notice something fantastic that just happened. As I put this child here inside, you can see that the yellow did not cover everywhere again, Abi. Did not cover everywhere again. It's because of this container. We did not declare the width of our container. You know, initially we've been doing our container width to be like this. I'm going to show you different techniques. Let's say 200, it covers 200, 250, it covers down. But now, what if you now want a situation whereby you want your container to cover the whole space? See, there's one thing. Don't forget, even though this flex is here, this flex is actually covering everywhere.
Okay.
But this container, since we did not declare the width of this container, Remember what I told you earlier that our container, if you do not declare the height or the width, it will only take the height and the width of the child.
The child, yes.
So that is what is happening here. That's why you are saying this place is small.
Okay.
But if we now declare the width to be 250, our container has expanded. But now, in this case, we do not know the exact value that will cover everywhere. And that is where a very good property comes in. It's called double dot infinity.
Okay.
Double dot infinity covers the width. And this double dot infinity covers all the available space, which means you do not put a double dot infinity width property inside a widget that gives you infinite space. Rules and regulation. Rules and regulation.
So you cannot put it inside that single child school.
You cannot put it inside, it's going to give you error. Because this double dot infinity is saying that this container takes up all the space
All the space.
in the width axis, in your width. It takes up all the space there. Now let's hover over it. Okay, it doesn't. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that's it. So you can see with this combination of all these widgets, we've been able to do the Ghanaian flag and we did the Nigerian flag.
It was 1 minute. Somebody's at my gate.
Huh?
1 minute. Somebody's at my gate.
Okay, there's no problem. The class has ended, so this is where we'll end it for today. Okay, let's wait for you to come back so we can take questions.
Okay, boss.
Uh-huh.
I beg, regarding this, my plot that is having issue.
Mm-hmm.
Please, I'm begging. What can you help me do about this?
I've told you this. See, what I can recommend at this particular point is for you to remove. Okay, do you remember the previous Flutter version that you were using?
I did not remember. That one was 2022. I mean, 2020 something. Should be 2022.
Okay. This is what will happen here. You should go and download a lower version because those ones are way more stable and it doesn't require all this plenty configuration. I'm going to forward you the links then that I sent to Mike that he downloaded and used. So you will just have to clear your previous Flutter installations there, all those ones. Then you install this other one. Then I think it should be good to go.
But do I still need to add it to part again?
Do you still?
Do I still need to add it to part?
Yes, now the whole installation process that you did the first time, you'll have to do it again.
But what about the existing one that is there?
That's what I just told you now. You would delete it now. Or if you don't want to delete it, you can just change the paths to be pointing at the other one that you want to use.
Okay.
Don't worry. Bugs make you stronger. Okay. Is there any question?
No, boss.
Mike and Baki, any question before I end this whole stream?
No, boss.
No.
Okay. No problem then. If that's the case, I will look for designs because let me just give you a sneak peek of what actual real world designs look like. Designers designing. You will have to understand the concept of scrolling so that you can arrange widgets like this in this manner. But don't worry, you'll get there. You'll get there. So I think this is it for today's class. Let me stop this one here and I will share the link right now.